It's me.
She's a former mayor. They're a former evangelical pastor with dissociative identity disorder. These two like to talk about the topics you're not supposed to talk about. They might cause you to perspire just a bit, but they'll definitely make you inspired. Let's talk religion and politics, and what spirituality and emotional well-being look like in a post-evangelical world. This is Paul and Ashley on Evangelicalish.
All right, and welcome. And here we are.
A special Tuesday night edition of Ish. Like, I feel like the whole world is stopping and noticing that we are on a different night than we are normally on. Do you think that is true?
I'm not getting that feel exactly, but if somebody wants to post where they're joining us from in the comments, that will let us know that at least somebody in the world knows we're here on a Tuesday.
We can represent the four corners of the earth. Well, I will just say this: as I was leaving my day job today, I was like, I gotta go, y'all, and it's podcast night. And then someone unsolicited said, like, oh, that's right, you're on Tuesday because tomorrow night we're having an event. And I was like, hey, you're watching. So Fresno famous. That's what we call it when you're like known for something in Fresno only, and like no one else outside of Fresno knows you. It's called Fresno famous.
Very good. Yes, we're in Fresno, California. And if you're joining us on the live stream, or maybe if you're listening on the audio pod and not on the live stream, you don't know that Pucky has joined us from Minnesota, the home of
it's
possible VP Walls.
That's it. It's ground zero. I mean, not for the swinginess, but for the birthing of the ticket. You know, that's pretty cool.
Yep. I still sometimes wonder if it had been Josh Shapiro, where would we be today?
I prefer not to retread any of the last, 8 months. So hi to Doug from South Dakota and to Molly from Richmond, Virginia, which is fantastic. A good friend and colleague who's just traveling back to California from Richmond. So Richmond is on the mind tonight.
Okay.
Yeah.
Lots going on. We have a great guest tonight. We're going to talk election.
We're exactly 1 week out. And, Paul and I were like spending some time a few weeks back thinking like, what do we do to like honor the fact that we're on the countdown, we're on the clock, T minus however many days / hours to election day 2024. And we thought we have just the perfect guest, and she will join us in just a bit. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah, that'll be good. I had something that could have been like a what's on my mind, because there was a headline I read earlier today that said in week 14 of the NFL season, the NFL was going to move the Cowboys-Bengals game to Springfield. And so I thought that meant Springfield, Ohio, where we're having the controversy about Trump saying the Haitians were eating dogs and cats. Yeah. But it's actually Springfield, the home of the Simpsons. They're going to have the Cowboys-Bengals game on the Simpsons, and they live in some unknown Springfield with a nuclear power plant and stuff.
That's so funny. I mean, they're doing something with the Simpsons for that?
Yeah, and I assume some sort of AI that as the game is being played, it'll be in some cartoon version.
Got it.
In Springfield.
Awesome.
And speaking of Ohio, Emily has joined us from Ohio. So yeah, we do have some people in the world who are.
There we go. Hey, we're marking our territory. I'm like putting the pens on the map in my mind right now. So pretty cool. So I have to tell you, Pucky says that Pucky is voting for the first time this Friday. Like
first time ever. Oh wow.
Really? That's exciting. Well,
that's
congratulations.
Because Pucky is going to cancel out Danica Patrick, the former NASCAR driver, who says she is going to vote for the first time ever, and she is going to vote for Trump, and said she would do so twice if she could.
Wait. But Danica doesn't live in Minnesota, does Danica? And it's electoral college, so it doesn't actually cancel out the vote.
Oh, okay. I was just talking in
Oh,
general terms.
general. Okay,
Yeah.
I got you. I'm like
Yeah,
really into this. I'm like, what is exactly the
damn
path? Like,
electoral college. Yeah.
I'm like all into the weeds of it. Well, that's exciting. Congratulations, Pucky, for being
The
a first-time
electoral
voter.
college where, and I'm sorry for this, Doug, but the Dakotas, get what, almost more votes for the president than California does,
I don't think it's that close.
not quite that close, but it is. So the numbers I read the other day is that a person in Wyoming, their vote for president counts the same as 340,000 Californians voting for president.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's very discouraging.
that is very discouraging. And I always hear
So,
say, well, it's not going to be fair if you don't keep, let the smaller states have an influence on the election. I'm like, well, it's not fair that my vote only counts, a fraction of what the Wyoming voters vote.
yeah.
So
It reminds me of the Schoolhouse Rock elbow room, and like Wyoming having all this elbow room, and then all of us in California being like, no, we don't have any elbow room. Well, I did something this weekend that I kind of enjoyed doing. It was the first time. We'll see if it's back by popular demand next election cycle. But I typed up Mom's voter guide for my two children and my spouse, and I was like, oh, I kind of like sharing, my analysis and, like how to think about certain issues. And, in California, where citizens can go direct to the ballot by citizen petition, we have all kinds of crazy ballot measures all the time. And so you like kind of have to get good at knowing how to quickly analyze and take in information on things that maybe you're not a subject matter expert on. So I was like, felt like I was equipping my family, and I felt very proud of myself. And my kids, at least to my face, did not roll their eyes at me for doing it.
I read it and I took your input. I think we disagreed on a couple of matters, but otherwise, it was good information. I utilized it. Yes.
Mom's voter guide. Maybe I'll turn that into like a product. And
it could be. It could be. It could be very, very
go national.
helpful for the world.
Exactly.
Yes.
I want to say a few more things.
But what you don't do anymore to our children is you will vote this way, or even
correction.
You will vote.
I never did that.
You didn't.
I didn't do that. I said you will vote. I don't care how you're going to vote, but you will sit here and
Okay,
vote. I will watch you and make sure that you do vote. And it is maybe accurate that I did pay our son one time to vote, which someone told me is a felony. But I didn't tell him how to vote. I was just like, I'll give you $20 to sit here and vote.
I don't think it's a felony if you do that for your child.
For your child, okay.
Now, like if you're Elon Musk and you're giving somebody $1 million in Pennsylvania to vote, or if that's a felony.
If you have 1 million children like Elon Musk and you say like your allowance is dependent, like there might be some kind of infraction there. But there are other reasons.
Well, JD Vance wants you to have, the husband vote for the entire family.
Yeah.
And he gets one vote for his wife as well, and one for each child as well. So that's
I can't even. I just have a full-on meltdown shutdown at the utterance of the initials J and D together in the same sentence. I can't with that guy. I can't with that guy.
JD, join us at least in the 18th century, and then maybe you can get to the 19th century one day. And who knows, you may catch up with us at some point.
I can't even. Okay, I have a few. I want to tell you a few things I'm excited about, and then we're going to get to our guest.
Okay.
Okay. So I have 4 reasons why today is special, and I want you to try to guess what the 4 are. Like things that are special about today. Number 1.
We're having a special podcast on Tuesday.
Okay, that's not on my list, but there are some related things. But no, number 1. Vice President Harris made her closing argument tonight in the Ellipsis. I haven't seen any coverage, but we're a week out. She's having her crescendo moment. I'm very anxious to hear about it, and that makes today special.
And in case this doesn't mesh in anybody's brain, and it didn't mine originally, this is where Donald Trump made his speech on January 6th.
Oh, yeah.
2021.
Oh, yeah. It is
where he says it was all love before they went and tried to hang Mike Pence in the name
yeah.
of Jesus.
It is. I'm so fascinated and tickled by the location selection
Yeah,
because
I love
it
that.
absolutely punctuates the closing argument. Right? Closing argument is this guy. Like anyway, I can't wait to watch the speech, and maybe our guest has seen some of it when she can tell us about it. So
Okay.
special for that reason. Number one. Number two, tonight might be the defining game of the World Series.
Yeah. I hate both teams, so I don't know, but I guess I hate the Dodgers more. So, but our son's wonderful, wonderful girlfriend loves
Yeah.
the Dodgers, and they have some players that are kind of good people, and so I hate that. I can't hate them as much as I want to hate them, and so yeah, it's a
Well,
quandary for me. So I just
it
kind of
reminds me
ignore that it's happening.
It reminds me of when we first started dating and you were such a huge Dallas Cowboys fan, and I noticed that it affected your mood for several days after the game. So I decided I too would be a Dallas Cowboys fan because I was rooting for
Me to be in a good
you to
mood.
be in a good
Yeah.
mood. And then I was
Yeah.
like, go Cowboys. Okay.
And our
So
son adopted that, but it was for his fantasy players. If his fantasy players didn't do well, he was in a bad mood.
yeah, thankfully you've all grown through that. Third reason why today is a special day. It's the first day that we have turned on our heater in our home.
Ooh,
So
I like that.
That's happening. It was cold when I got upstairs. I turned on the heater. But also for our ish listeners, our regulars, you will find this particularly compelling. Today is the day that Paul is going to be doing a cold take reaction to Ren for God, dear God, at the end of the show. So to our friend Doug on the left, who has been petitioning that Paul watch this video and react to it, we're going to do that tonight. We just said stake in the ground. It's happening. So stick with us.
Did you say Ren for God, dear God?
I did. I couldn't remember the song.
That sounds good.
I'll just keep saying words until I say the right ones.
Okay.
It's called a song called Dear God, and Ren is the artist. And if you're listening to Audible, this is a really good reason to jump over to YouTube and watch our YouTube channel.
I mean,
because
YouTube's probably going to kick us off for a violation, a copyright violation.
I didn't think about that.
That's how
Okay.
it goes.
All right.
Okay.
Well, we won't.
Let's
tell
get to our
anyone.
guest.
There we go.
And
Our
it's our
guest tonight.
nephew's birthday, right?
And our nephew's birthday. Our nephew is 21, and
Yeah.
he is having so much fun right now at the local casino. Like all good Central Valley residents. What you doing on the 21st? You go into the casino.
And you drink alcohol of all kinds of different colors.
That's right.
Yeah.
A rainbow. All right. So our guest tonight, I'm so excited. I'm going to do the formal introduction because for the record, she's my friend and I'm sharing her with Paul. But let's bring on our guest. Her name is Liz Erickson.
Yay.
Hey, Liz.
Hi.
Welcome to your first appearance of Evangelical-ish.
Thank you so much. I'm just cracking up over here. So good.
We were doing our best.
This is what we call our opening riff when we just talk
Yeah.
about nonsense. So,
Yeah.
I'm like, where did I go for my 21st in Fresno? I think it was like Goldstein's or something. But my brother's like, you aren't an adult until you drink here. I'm like, okay.
Another popular destination. Well, Liz, let me just tell everybody quickly about you so they will understand the awesome insight and perspective that you're going to share with us tonight. And I'm going to do the formal bio here. Liz Erickson, you are the Senior Director of Strategic Programs at an organization called Supermajority. And in that role, you develop and facilitate training for volunteers and members to build the knowledge, skill, and belief to make the majority rules real in our country. From online training to in-person convenings, Liz works to build a highly trained group of folks that are an undeniable force advocating for gender equality. She has spent the last decade honing her understanding of how adults best learn and grow, from coaching teachers in their classrooms to developing volunteers with Organizing for Action to getting her MA in adult learning from Columbia. She loves to hike in the redwoods, drink iced coffee, and host elaborately themed dinner parties for her friends, which I will add which include her cat named Atticus.
Yes, my beloved.
Your beloved. It is truly a divine cat. So welcome, Liz. This is a busy season for you. Thanks for joining us.
Yes, so glad to be with you, and so honored you had me here too.
Yeah.
We are 1 week away as we're recording this podcast.
I know. I was just talking to my executive director on the phone because we have our closing call. We're like, how are we doing? Are we okay? And I was like, oh my gosh, polls close, East Coast a week from now. And so just the countdown is so real.
It's so real. Well, why don't you say just a little bit more about Supermajority and generally what the work is that you all are doing day in, day out, regardless of election season. But then what I was most excited about you being here tonight to talk about is you are literally phone banking, training folks on the front lines of reaching out to voters, particularly those that are marginalized and maybe low propensity voters. And I feel like you're our closest friend who actually knows what's going on in these swing districts. And I'd love for you to just give us insight on what you're hearing out there.
Yes, I love that. So I work for a group called Supermajority, and we were started in right around 2019. I don't know if people think back, you put your brain back, 2019 was still Trump was in office, which is wild. And we had a few women, a few powerful activists that came together and started asking the question, essentially, if women are the key donors, organizers, activists, why aren't our values represented? Why is childcare costing so much? Just as a small example, why are the things that make our country go aren't advocated for in places of power? And so we started a group, and I was early adopter. I got a call. This maybe we could go into later, but I got a call to join, and I had been kind of in Obama world. And at that time I was like, okay, maybe I could, we'll see. And when I started working and talking to women across the country, I was like, oh, I need to be here. I need to be doing this. And so, in 2020, at that time, then COVID had happened. And so we ran an online, woman to woman voter engagement program, women turning out women to see if is there could we catch fire with this idea? And so for the last 4 years, we've been building across key states to essentially turn out young women voters. So we've been looking very specifically to say, since 2022, how many young women voters have now registered to vote in these states? And can we get them out to vote come election day? And so I've been looking and obsessing over for instance, Biden won by 10,000 votes in Arizona in 2020. So this year, since 2022, there's 20K women that are now available or registered to vote for the first time. So if we can get those 20K women out, then we're going to get women showing up for us in places of power. So we're working essentially in Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and North Carolina are where we've been kind of obsessed with and looking at those and it comes down to single votes, so making sure that every woman has a plan to vote come election day.
So 2022, everybody, was predicting this red wave. It didn't happen. A lot of that was credited to abortion rights as the driving factor in young women voting. Is that still a driving issue for the young women in 2024?
Oh, you're so wise. You're so wise.
Is it losing steam? Because it doesn't seem like VP Harris is talking much about it right now.
Such a good question. I was also just talking about this with my executive director in our closing call. And I was like, you know what? Women have determined the outcome of elections since 2018. So if you remember 2016, Trump was in office. 2018, we're we have to get the House. We have to get the House if there's any backstop to Donald Trump. And women did that in 2018. Women also showed out in 2020. And then in 2022, when folks were like, this red wave is going to happen, it didn't happen because women showed up and voted. And to your point, abortion, women had one thing. We had one thing.
Yeah.
And it was not a lot.
Yeah.
It was just the choice to have like autonomy over our bodies. And so I think, this is like a long way to go and answer your question, but I like thank women that have come before me. And because women were pigeonholed into one issue and we stood for that one thing, and then that one thing was taken away, it's just like such a clear picture to me that like intersectionality didn't happen at a lot of times in key moments of women's organizing. And I think like I'm heartened in 2024. I see lots of pictures of like different ways that intersectionality is happening. Like, so if you think like the Equal Rights Amendment also never passed, which is genuinely just regardless of your gender, you're not discriminated against. It's such a low bar. I'm still like, oh my gosh. Okay. So I have friends that are organizing around a certain prop in New York. And then it's under the Equal Rights Amendment, but they're saying like, regardless of gender, and they're protecting our trans family there as well to say, so yeah, regardless of gender, but we're going to go a little bit further to kind of predict this game that people stoke around fear of gender. And so anyway, long story short, I think I'm heartened because I don't see women like being mobilized because of abortion per se. I see women being mobilized because it's like, okay, we have nothing.
Yeah.
So like, let's start throwing it all out there. Like, you're going to come at us for our bodies. Great. We're going to come out and say, we want equal pay. Like, and we're
There's no one it up at this point.
Exactly. We're going to get legally protected around that.
Well, and I remember when President Obama got elected and some of my Black friends, watching, 70-year-old men cry because somebody that looked like them got elected. And and it seems to me like should it be that way for women to just, I want to see a woman be president in my lifetime? Is there any of that feel amongst women?
I think VP Harris is very interesting because as I've tracked her, from everything I understand, she's fairly like institutionalist, and she doesn't want to talk about identity. She's like,
yeah, she couldn't. She could not and be elected. You can't. I totally get it. It's like, I don't even think about that because you're not allowed to think about that. You just have to like get in there and do the job and like be better than everybody and know that everyone's going to say, like, it must not have been that hard if she could have done it. In their heads, that's what they're thinking. I mean, yes.
And I feel part frustration sometimes because I'm like, but this is so important. And like, this is so cool. And like a woman of color in this place of power could be, but she's a definite, and I don't know, people can feel free to disagree with this. She's definitely like, my work will speak for itself. My work will save me. And I don't know. I don't think so. Like, I don't think it always does because she's done so many amazing things and people still question her competency.
Yeah. Well, it was really interesting. We had Joaquin Alvarado on with us on Sunday. I don't think we've posted it yet. So
yes, we have.
Have we posted? Okay. So everyone is so excited that we have like 2 shows in 3 days time. Paul and Ashley have been very productive in our little abode here in Fresno. But one of the things he said, I was asking him, he's a longtime journalist and sort of like observer of media and direct journalist for a long time. I asked him how, like, considering how this race is being covered by the media, what do you think is a story that's not being told? That if you were the assignment editor at the New York Times, like that's what you would put reporters on. And he said the role that women are playing in this election and their order of magnitude, far greater influence and numbers than the men who are like disgruntled and going for Trump. And I'm just like, so, I mean, are you seeing that in like, I don't know, the return, early ballots coming in? I mean, like this whole thing. Okay,
Yes,
say more because I want to be encouraged by that.
I love that. I think it's interesting, and why I like right around this time stop looking at any polls or anything is because it feels so distracting. But the a lot of news and headlines will be saying like, why are men so obsessed with Trump? Like, why are men? And they're forgetting like how galvanized women are. So that it's like what story are you telling?
Yeah.
And the I think Politico even just released an article today about the role that women are playing in like getting others out to vote. And I think what it was today with Politico that said the early voting numbers from women are just like shattering records, which is like that's such a hopeful bit because I'm like,
Oh,
oh, please. And women are just, well, this is like a gender stereotype, I guess, but are just community builders. Like, I'm going to vote. You're going to vote with me. Like you were saying with your son, like you're going to vote.
Yeah.
Like this is a
identity. You all go to the bathroom together at dinner.
Stop it. Now that's a stereotype. Now that is a stereotype.
Okay. Sorry. Yes. Guilty as charged. Yeah. Of course.
Yes. So I think I think there's hope. I really do. And I'm like, I feel a little sick this week, but I'm also like, I do see signs. And when I just talk to so many voters and the people, even there are hard, difficult people in our country, but on the arc of it through these calls, I'm like, people are good. We're like, we're doing the best we can. And there's hope in it.
That's so exciting.
A comment and a question. I mean, I think part of the reason men are the bigger story is because, the news goes after the creepier, weirder story. And men like Trump for kind of creepy, weird reasons. And I think women are a little more reasonable.
I can see that. I can see that. Women are like, head down, do the right thing, work, go, push. And you're right. That's not very sensational.
Yes.
And the men's thing is kind of this swing back to, toxic masculinity. Maybe that's a little bit overused, but kind of this men's rights again kind of thing, maybe.
Yes, I've been really curious too in that same vein of I've been seeing research talking about how millennial women are the first in history to get more progressive as you age. And there's a trend to like get a little more fiscally conservative, more socially conservative, and millennial women are also just changing that. With some correlation with like getting married at less rates or higher rates, or just having different styles of partnerships because you've traditionally voted how your partner voted. And so I'm really curious with that trend too, if we're going to keep seeing women be more and more progressive as we age too.
I heard one of the Bulwark people say something about when women vote at home, if they vote at the same time as their husband, they're more likely to vote how their husband votes. But when they go into a booth, they'll vote more of how they're wanting to vote. Ashley, I know we're going to jump in there, but I did want to ask, I just want to get a feel of, so phone banking, how does it work? How do you decide who to call?
That is exactly what I was going to ask her. Like you totally read my mind. Walk us through it. What does it feel like?
And kind of what are you hearing when you're talking to people on the phone?
No, you're just asking like questions that just like melt my heart. Just like, yes. Yes. Well, so I was raised in Obama style organizing, which is Obama had Marshall Gann's theory, and it's really in the civil rights tradition, which actually got a lot from farm workers, United Farm Workers from Central Valley. So there's like an origin that I feel very connected to from the Central Valley with even phone banking and that tactic. But in Obama, our wonderful dear Obama famously said that he hates phone banking. But you do it. It's like a very important way of contacting voters. And essentially our modern day and age, how it has come to be is that organization that you're working with or a candidate that you're working with has like a script that the volunteer can then call. You get connected with a voter. And so we do into those key states and the script.
Can I jump in for 1 second? Just say, I hate getting calls like this. I hate getting any calls from anybody now. I'm a texter all the way. Ashley loves getting these calls.
Oh,
Oh, hell yeah.
She loves getting survey
Listen.
phone calls.
Hey, listen, I'll take every poll. I will, whether it's digital or like I punch the buttons in or I
Yeah.
talk to them, because I want to shout into the campaign mechanism, and I want them to hear what I want to say. So like,
Yes.
I am like loving this season right now.
Sorry, just interjecting that in. And it's got to be a little hard because a lot of us don't answer numbers that we don't know these days.
Yes, that's such a good point.
And it wasn't that long ago, you guys, our home phones would ring. Remember that? I haven't heard my home phone ring in like probably 7 years.
I think that's because the fact that we have a home phone shows how old we are.
Maybe we disconnected. I don't even know. Anyway, okay.
I think I turned the ringer off. Sorry, Liz.
It's off the hook.
That explains that. Okay.
I love it. Well, so
keep going.
Yes. So the group of voters that we talk to, we've actually, our list of folks, we prioritize younger women, so under 35 and younger, and women of color, which is typically it leans Democratic, and we have evidence that they're newly registered to vote or they're a sporadic voter. Like for some reason, they've missed an election one way or another. And we have also, and I can talk about this later too, we've done a text at some point. Supermajority has a thing that it's our values that we live by. We call our majority rules. It's a big poll that we did of women across the country when we first started, of what would you want the world to look like if you were represented? What would be happening? So it's our 5 majority rules. And so at some point, the voters that we're talking to have said, yes, I believe that. Like, I believe these rules should exist. And essentially it's that our lives are safe, our bodies are respected, our work is valued, our families are supported, and our government represents us.
Ooh.
So if they've said like, yes, I want that world, a world where that exists, then we're like, you're probably going to lean progressive, which is, I'm still sometimes blown. I'm like, these are like fundamental rights. I don't think they're like wild, but, and then I do have to say too, we have a super rule that's kind of like the gel of all of them. And it says that essentially the lives and experiences of women of color are front and center in addressing the nation's challenges.
Wow.
So it's people essentially closest to the pain are closest to places of power, as Ayanna Pressley has said. So voters that we've talked to have said like, yes, I believe in those. So we know they have some sort of like progressive leaning. And then they're getting a phone call from a volunteer saying, I see you've registered to vote. Come election day, do you have everything you need to get to the polls? And so it's a social pressure method to make sure it's almost like the identity of like, if I can visualize out loud what I'm supposed to do, then I'm more likely to do it, which just fits in life. Like if I'm going to say, I'm going to try to eat healthy, but I have no plan to do it, I'm probably not going to do it. If I'm talking with someone and they're like, okay, Liz, what are you going to get at the grocery store? I'm like, oh, okay. I'm going to get these fruits, these vegetables, and even better, if I have someone to make food with me, I'm going to do it healthier too. So that's our style of phone banking is calling through in those key areas and doing certain level of passes through those voters. Yeah. Long answer for you.
Wow.
No, interesting.
Okay. So as you have your team and you've worked through these swing states over the months, you're making multiple passes, et cetera. I'm curious, like, can you tell where is like the most resistance? Is there a certain idea? Like, you know how when you're like pulling a weed and some just come out real easily and others like you have to yank on it. Like, what do you think is a sentiment that is keeping people anchored to either not voting or voting Donald Trump?
Most like if you can get a hold of the woman that you're calling on the other line, there's typically not a lot of resistance.
Yeah.
If like a masculine sounding voice picks up and it's their partner and I'm like, there's usually some, there's resistance. And I've asked, this is not a swing state, but I was at Modernist the other night and I was talking to this person in the bar and they were like, oh, it's like a women's political party. Like, what about men's? I was like, yeah, go do it. Like no one's stopping. That's not a zero sum. We're just saying women deserve access too. So I think most resistance comes from men who feel like women having power takes away their own.
Yeah.
And that's just not my theory at all. I think
Yeah.
we can all thrive is my belief. So
If I'm not mistaken, every single president in history has been a man.
yes.
Just a thought.
I know. Yes. And how has it gone? How's it gone for us? you know.
And I think both parties have been well represented by men, despite the fact that women are the supermajority of the country, right? So,
right. Exactly.
It reminds me when I was a kid and it was like, Mother's Day, and then it was Father's Day. And like, hasn't every kid had the moment where they go to their parents very indignant? They say, we have Mother's Day and we have Father. When do we have Kids Day? And then your parent looks down at you and says, honey, every day is Kids Day. And then you walk off and you're like, I got stumped. That's kind of the thing. It's like, honey, every day is Man's Day in the, in the Oval. So like, it's good. It's good.
Yes.
You're fine. You're fine.
You are quite protected. Your rights are quite secure. Your stock is pretty strong. Yes. Yes. And I do feel like sometimes, especially like in women's organizing, I do feel for men. Like sometimes I'm so grateful. Like the community of women that I feel like I have in my life.
Yeah.
I'm just like, like I'm so grateful. And for dudes, sometimes I'm like, yes, that does seem lonely. It does seem lonely.
Let's talk about that for a minute, because that's really come front and center for me too. And like just hearing from community organizations that I work with in our region in Central California that are working on like job training and economic mobility and like building and changing the direction of a region. And that means a whole bunch of people have to have wins and succeed that have really not been engaging or whatever. So like, I'm for all of that. And I'm hearing from a lot of our community partners that this big challenge with young men of color, and really just pushing back and all of this. So, and of course we have a son. So I'm thinking about our boy, and, thankfully he's been wrapped with support and has, so many advantages to move forward in his life. But what do you guys think? Like, what is the vision of, like, how would you express and communicate, hey, we're not saying it's women instead of men. We're just saying women ascending to and having equal voice or equitable voice and the decisions that are affecting everyone, giving the role women. Like, how do you explain that to dudes, let's say?
This was my critique of the Barbie movie, by the way. It was a matriarchy, then patriarchy came back and took over, and then at the end it was a matriarchy again with a little bit of that. They should have gone back to equal at the end, but yeah.
My gut reaction is that there's lots of research to show that when women have more disposable income, they invest it back in their community. Like women versus, and I don't mean to even set up this divide, but men and women do spend money differently. They're different patterns. And so there's like, I think like, and sometimes I feel this with my family. I feel this with my community. It's like, I'm voting for you too. Like, and I feel this with like gun violence. I'm like, I know you feel like this is fully about freedom, but I'm voting for you too and your kids too. And so like, the only thing I can say when people get bristly about it is like, I love you too. Like, I'm working for you too. And I know you don't, I don't say this in a condescending way. I'm like, I know you don't see it yet, but like, truly tell me if my eyes need to be opened in a different way. And this is like just a faith belief of like, God, reveal if I'm not working in the direction of your justice or your equity. But I feel like when I talk to men and they get in a little set up against way, it's just coming back around to be like, okay, we're on the same team here. Actually, I think our community.
You're so freaking good at this. You're like, I am like eating out of the palm of your hand.
Well, if I can jump in there real quick,
Sure.
Ash, it's men are told, or assign male at birth, maybe I could AMAB, don't run like a girl, don't throw like a girl, don't cry like a girl. They're set up with this expectation of manliness, and not even in a toxic way. And I think the saying of, if you're privileged, equality feels like oppression. And so then I think, somebody like Trump comes along and he's using that messaging, like they're trying to take something from you. And so there's all of this messaging of you're not enough, guy. And this incel thing, which is really a weird thing in the mix. And then, politicians saying, these women, these childless cat ladies are coming to take from you. These lesbians want to take from you. And I think it just has men in a real weird space, a real weird headspace. And even I do some teaching at the community college here in Fresno, and they said the population of the community college student body is skewing heavily female now. They're having a really hard time getting males to come to school. And so it's just, it's some of it's self-inflicted, but it is a time, I think, when men are like, where is our place in America? And now I wish they would stop screaming about it and sit down and start having conversations, and let's work toward a healthy end. But it is a weird time.
Yes. And it's so weird, but I do feel like sometimes it is telling men, like, you do have a place, like you do belong, like the community that we're creating, you're not left behind, like you're with it. Like, what do you need? Like, it's a weird thing to facilitate and work towards, like, justice for yourself. And then like welcome the people that feel, it's a strange thing, but I do think it is a time for men redefining themselves.
I really love what you said about how you, in your heart, you're working for people too, who don't necessarily, like, you see them in your vision of the future. They may not see themselves in what they think is your vision for the future. And so, like, I mean, that is just such a generous spirit and heart, and it is probably more of a feminine expression, not exclusively, gendered, but maybe more of a feminine expression. That it's just that heart of, bringing everybody along.
Yes. And I think a lot of it too, have either of you read Beloved Community, the Where Do We Go From Here?
No.
Oh my gosh, it's so good. I listened to it on tape. It's MLK's book post. It was, gosh, I'm like blinking on the key pivotal moment. Something had happened, and he was talking through, like, okay, where do we go now? Like, what does the community look like now? And his thesis is like, this has to be a beloved community where everyone belongs. So like the moment that you're agitating and like in organizing, it's the idea that you have to agitate things to have people take action, but you have to agitate responsibly, because you can't force people out. You have to agitate to get them activated, but they have to stay within your community. And so he was like, we can't have a space where people don't see themselves or don't have a room at the table. And he's saying this to, he's speaking to white men in the South that had physically harmed him, so I find that really moving, of like, what type of community or future are you actually envisioning and building? And it can't be exclusionary. You can't recreate what you are trying to leave,
Yeah.
I think part of that message is that these emotions that Ashley was talking about as feminine aren't only in the biological female body. Like, we all have those, at different levels, and maybe even on a continuum. And it's okay, bio males, to have emotions that we might classify in a feminine gendered term, but it doesn't make you any less of a man.
No.
In fact, I think it makes you stronger to be able to say, I hurt, I need help, I really care about reaching down and helping somebody, or whatever that looks like, that we would normally call feminine emotion, and that could be such a healing thing. And to me, I think it really does give a chance for a heart healing for a bio male.
Yes.
But I
And
think we're so convinced that it'll make us gay somehow. I'm sorry to use that term, but like men are like, oh, I can't do that, or or
yes.
else I'm not manly enough.
I'm so glad you said that because, I was thinking back to the night of 2016 in that November. And I remember I'm like a really independent person. I don't really like to be helped. It's like weird because I love to help, but I'm like, I don't know, it's this individualism I can't rid of myself. And I remember that night I was like, I just so deeply wanted to be held. Like I just
Mm.
wanted like a really masculine, which is a fun. I was like, I want someone to hold me. And I told that to someone, this guy that I'm dating, and he was like, it's so funny because that night I just wanted to like share my feelings. And I was like, well, you know what? There's a place for this to coexist. you know, like he was sad. But couldn't, so yes, I'm
Oh,
with you.
And isn't it
that's
interesting?
so precious.
I know.
And it's so interesting that the joyous thing for people on the right is like triggering the libs. If we can
Yeah.
trigger
Yes.
them,
Yeah.
and it's like, no, I'm not triggered. I'm just showing normal human emotion.
Yeah.
And that's part of
Yes.
what we do as human beings.
Oy vey,
So
y'all.
do you have a feel that you can wake up on Wednesday after election and say, I did what I could, no matter what the outcome is?
Yes. I feel like I I'm I'm doing everything I can, and anyone that wants to get involved, I'm like, there's a place for you. There's a way forward for you. I think, what did Harris just say? You don't want to say you didn't do anything. You don't, she just came out with the phrase that I thought was really powerful. I'm gonna botch
Mm.
it, but like, you don't want to say you could have done anything more, and you don't want to say there's nothing less you could do. Like, we need everything you can give. Um, and so I think, it will be helpful just to have some level of like, here's what's next. And that's what I'm looking forward to. Like, honestly, regardless, like, of course I want a certain outcome, but regardless, at least we'll have like a plan of action for next
Yeah.
steps, whatever
Yeah.
happens.
Did you catch her speech tonight yet?
I haven't, no.
Okay. Yeah, I
Okay.
can't. I'm excited to watch that. Um, I would love for folks to hear just a little bit more about you personally. I know we're kind of backed up against time, but
Mhm.
maybe just say something about your personal journey that caused you to arrive at this moment, being on this podcast with all the
Mhm.
experience that you've been sharing with us tonight.
Ugh, yes, I am from so I'm from Central California too. I'm from Fresno, and I'm just quite attached as I think about it. It's very, very funny, but I'm like, this is my home. And I'm the
I
youngest.
always say they make you swallow something in Fresno that forces you to come back at some point.
Yes,
Yeah.
I know, I know. And I was with my mom even last night, and she's like, "Do you remember you used to like run through these like French doors and sing Beauty and the Beast? Like, I want so much more than this provincial life." Like, I was like, this frees me. Um, and I'm the youngest of five, and I have four older brothers. And I
Wow.
think that honestly, my mom is so smart. She's the smartest person I know. And we think very differently. But I think seeing how her opinion changed our family and like how she would kind of guide our family, even though we're a fairly patriarchal unit, I was just always impressed by her words and her thinking and her thoughts. And so I did just seek out and go through lots of different experiences. And actually in 2016, I had been in grad school. I was in New York at the time, and I was trying to get back to California, and Trump was elected in 2016. And I was that shocked white woman. I know people are like, white woman, you woke up in 2016, like, welcome. And I was like, that was me. I was like, what is going on? And when Trump was elected, I was like, I feel like I just have to do something. I had been, my background's adult learning theory. I really think about how do people learn and grow for the sake of justice? Because I felt for my journey, I believed some pretty hard things growing up. And so in 2016, when Trump was elected, I then had a friend that was in Obama world. He had done community organizing with Organizing for Action. And there was a training director role that opened up, and they're doing lots of like community resistance to Trump at the time. And so just honestly, like by the grace of God, I just kind of slid into that. And then there's a quote, and it's probably on every campaign, but I heard it on the Obama campaign of, you come for the candidate, but you stay for the people. And I just fell in love with like the people and that the community that had been organizing with Obama. And then right in 2019, when Supermajority started, a friend who was in Obama world was like, you got to apply this to like what's starting to happen with women and the gender divide that's happening in our country. So in 2019, I was like, and then I don't know, it just kind of clicks, and you don't think it's going to click, but it starts clicking.
And this is, I sense, not the ideology of the household you grew up in.
Oh, great question. No, not at all. My parents, who I love and adore, are they're very conservative, and I grew up in an evangelical household, and I think maybe when I went to college, I had a really defining moment. I went to UC San Diego, and I remember I was at a church in San Diego, and I remember the pastor was like, if you just close your eyes and think, if Jesus was in San Diego right now, where would Jesus be? And are we mimicking that? Are we doing that? And I closed my eyes and I was like, Jesus would be at the border. There's no way that Jesus wouldn't be like, and I just had the clearest picture of Jesus like washing the feet of folks that had traveled so far.
Wow.
And I was like, I don't know. And there was something in that I was like, I think I've been thinking about this wrong. And it was gentle. It wasn't shaming. There was like a real gentleness of like, let's look at a few key things. And so that was my first real, and people can be loving, I think, and still conservative, but I think there were moments where I was like, I think that's not what Jesus would.
Well, I love the way you said that, because that is exactly the experience Paul and I had that caused us to root in Fresno. Wow. And I just wonder, it's like, isn't it cool when there's sort of this thread that, rides on the wave of consciousness and divine love that just kind of, it's like wafts through our minds at different places, different times. But Paul and I, when we were first dating, and I don't know that we hadn't got engaged yet, but we were faithful churchgoers, and loved the person of Christ that we were being taught about and knew about our whole lives, and we're just like, if Jesus were to show up any place in the U.S., it would be Fresno. Because look at the hunger of the people who are here, the need, like this is the sort of modern day, and of course, everyone can and should feel that way about where they are, right? Because we need that presence in every literally nook and corner. But for us, it was like, man, this place and its desperation surely will attract the presence of the divine. And then we're like, so literally, let's just camp here because divine's showing up and we want to be a part of that. And that's how we got connected to Fresno.
I love that. And I think I've been thinking recently in that same vein of like, because I moved back to Fresno about a year ago now, which is bananas. And I think even moving back was an attempt to be closer to an idea of God, because I do believe that if a loving God exists, they would manifest in Fresno. So I am like, wow. I think it's like, okay, God, I'm trying. Like, are you trying? You said, like, we're here. Yes, let's go.
Well, I'm sorry to tell us all, we've been deceived by woke Jesus. And
woke white, Well,
we are almost out of time. I do want to ask though, Liz. And sometimes I think we make little jokes about Handmaid's Tale and things like that. And I guess this is a terrible note to end on, but is there?
Where are you going, Paul? Where are you going? I'm back to Jesus walking through consciousness.
I know, but is there? Do you worry about that? Even no matter the outcome of the election, just the way one side of this political spectrum have gone, that women really are in some danger of some version of really being subjugated by people who see women through a prism of just being baby manufacturers in some way.
Yes. I'm like of two minds. I feel like women have always figured it out. Like whatever happens, we're gonna figure it out. And I was on a call with Gloria Steinem the other day, which is I was like
And everybody
hyperventilating.
all the time. You're like,
I
showing
know.
up
I
for,
was
oh my God.
I forgot to breathe, And she was like, we fucking fight. We always have, and we always will. And there was something so like grounding that like we have the community we need to figure it out. And so I am terrified, and I think Trump would and could and is well positioned to do this term differently if he was in power. And I think women are in danger. I think people of color, I think everyone, if you experience anyone that's outside of like a nuclear norm tradition in our country, and I think it's a tradition, but I think we're all in danger, and we will be okay at the same time. It's a funny.
We fucking fight. I love it.
I know. I like stopped breathing. I was like,
that could be the name of this episode of Evangelical-ish. Although, yeah. Well, that is a beautiful place to land in this conversation. So thank you, Liz, for taking us there. And thank you for just opening the door and helping us to see what you see. It is beautiful and exciting. And, it was a great way to officially kick off the final week of this campaign. So appreciate you.
Well, thank you for having me. It was so fun. I could talk to you both forever.
Oh yeah. Trust me. The first of many appearances of Liz Erickson.
So fun.
So I know the Pod Save America guys are telling everybody, call, text 5 friends,
Yes.
What's your advice for people real quick as you're leaving?
Yes.
What do people need to do?
Okay, I think you folks have to join a phone bank. You have to talk to voters. Like the best aid blesses me every time I do, to use a very Christian term. I'm like, I believe we can do this when I talk to voters. And then if you think of, I love that, 5 people in your life that you need to get out to vote, you talk to them, you text them, make sure they have a plan to get out the vote. Like I haven't turned in my ballot yet, which is embarrassing. I got to do it tomorrow. I got to do it tomorrow afternoon.
We did ours on Saturday, right? Ashley?
Yeah.
And I just got a text today that said it's been counted. It's been
honestly
counted.
I was feeling nervous because we never wait this close to election day. I mean, we get it in within a week of it landing at home. But yeah, we got it in on Saturday, and our Secretary of State and our county clerk, we've had great electronic communication. We know right where our ballot is. It's been counted, and hooray.
I got nervous because some ballot boxes got burned up in Washington and Oregon. And
yes, I saw that.
Scary.
That's wild.
If somebody wants to phone bank, how would they do that?
Okay, I'm putting into the chat right now. I don't know if folks see this. I just put a link.
You put it in the private chat. I'll put it in the
private chat. Oh,
I'll put it in the public.
Thank you.
I'll put it in
Tech
the public
challenge.
And I'll put it in the show notes for those who are listening by audio. So
great. We have if folks want like something kind of fun, tomorrow night we're doing a call with Stacey Abrams and Attorney General Letitia James and Congresswoman Lauren Underwood. It's just this 3 dynamite women.
You're such a name dropper. Jeez.
I was just like, let's go. So that one will be like a really fun, fill up your cup, like feel motivated. And then essentially the hope is like people feel good. And we have like a day of action this Saturday. So if you go back to that Mobilize page, you can sign up for phone banks into certain states. You don't need to be from those states. We have like FAQs that help situate where the voting landscape is.
Nice.
And then we have phone banks Monday and Tuesday all the way up through. And
Wow. And you're headed out to Pennsylvania to write out the rest of the election.
Going to Philly on Friday. So we'll see.
Come on, Pennsylvania. Come on.
I know. We need you.
Come on, Michigan. Come on.
Awesome. Yes. Well,
Liz, this was fun. Thank you.
Yeah, Liz, thank you so much. And maybe we'll catch you on the other side of the election for a bit of a debrief sometime before the end of the year.
I would love that. That's a great idea.
Yeah. All right.
Good to see you.
Liz.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Awesome. Okay. So now we have on
Ah.
our what's on my mind.
Yeah, but I want to just pause a minute because I feel
Okay.
like Liz really took me to a spiritual place with her. I really like I love what she brings and what I don't know, it's like there's a way she sees people in life that I just think is so so inspiring and beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. And both Joaquin on Sunday, and that pod is available on our YouTube channel on the Evangelicalish and the Pastor Paul YouTube channel and on the Evangelicalish podcast on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast. But both Joaquin and Liz have been very, very encouraging to me. That if Trump wins, if the Republicans take the House and Senate, we fucking fight, we stand up,
Mhm.
maybe we need to start an underground railroad to help women out, or help
Mhm.
people who are targets of, we'll do what it takes. We'll take care of each other. And,
Mhm.
and that could be a beautiful thing.
All right. So our special closing feature, Doug on the Left, has inspired this. And yes, Doug, I did watch and listen to the video. And thank you so much for the suggestion. The song is Dear God by Ren. And Paul, why don't you share with us what you have prepared?
Yeah. So I wasn't sure if we would want to go through, I think the song's about 3.5 minutes long, and I wasn't sure if we'd want to go through the whole thing. So I recorded myself blind reacting earlier. And so I'm going to start kind of a little ways into the song because I didn't react a lot early in the song, but found it to be profound a little bit later. And so that's where we're going to start, Doug. And so let's see, how do I put it in? Let's see, I do that. Okay. Oh, look at my face. Oh my gosh.
You look a
Okay.
little angry.
Yeah, I do, don't I? Okay,
Yeah.
here we go.
Vision or people living in prisons of moral values they're given. What is right and what is wrong? Am I a sinner if I don't comply with everything that Moses said, or is that dumb? And why do people disguise hatred in your name? Homophobia, a history of violent wars and causing pain. High priests in the tower stacking riches. Women burnt at the stakes called witches. In the name of God,
God, I really have resting bitch face, don't I? Jeez.
I mean, we're gonna maybe call it something else. You're not
Oh my
stopping
gosh.
it there, are you?
No, I'm
Okay.
just looking at myself going, holy shit, is that
Well,
how I look all the
you
time?
you just look like you're really focused right
Yeah,
now.
I am. But do
So
I always look mad like that?
well,
Jeez.
okay, also, we're all just getting used to you without glasses. I mean, you normally have glasses covering up your brow, and now you don't.
But
So,
I seem like I have a grimace. I don't know. Okay, here
I
we go.
mean
Zeus, Jesus, people claiming lives justified by your allegiance. I think it's more complex than good versus evil. I think that there's both darkness and light inside people. Through different eyes, a man called a terrorist could be a freedom fighter if he's fighting for the side you're with. Reading past the lines, I just let go. Searching for profits, my faith it is paper thin. So many questions in my mind, they replay like an echo. They never stop, my Messiah is porcelain. So is it ignorant to claim that we know what you want? And if I fast for the Sabbath, is that what you want? Or is tradition just superstition, religion, the human vision just crafted out of people's ambition? Listen, I knew a girl that lost a baby before it was born. What's the purpose of that, God? What is it for? Why did my best friends die before I hit 25? Is it because there is something better in the afterlife? God, I've been feeling suicidal lately. Mental health is worsening. It feels like it might break me. If you're watching, you know that I've been strong. But God, how much longer do I have to hold on? Please just give me some solace so that I
I forgot to do a trigger warning here and mention that there is some talk of suicide. So please forgive me, everyone. And I should have mentioned that ahead of time. I'm very sorry.
know you've got my back. Please just give me some relief. God, is that too much to ask?
Yeah. 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 The initial stuff with the questions, those are all questions that I've asked a lot. And, I kind of disagree. Heaven doesn't sound like heaven to me. Heaven sounds like a place where we're going to be chained up and have to worship this God for 1,000 years. And when we've been there 1,000 years, our worship will have just begun. That doesn't sound great, but the end of, how long do I have to do this? Did I ask for this? Yeah, that's powerful stuff. And those are questions I've asked a lot over the last few years. If the agreement is, if you sin and don't repent, you walk yourself into hell. Well, I never signed up for that agreement. I never made that deal. I never asked to be born. When did we make this deal? That is life with this God. Yeah, those are my initial thoughts. Thanks for sharing that, Doug and Ashley.
Yeah, that's a really sweet and powerful and compelling. When I say sweet, I mean like it moves me. It really moves me. Yeah, that's real.
Yeah, it's I'm at a place where I don't even see heaven as a big incentive for being a Christian. It's interesting that when you ask like why does God allow suffering, and somebody would say, well, if there's no suffering, then how do you know there's love? How do you know there's healing? And then the follow-up question to that then is like, oh, so then when we're in heaven for eternity, we won't be able to know that there's love and healing in the world because there won't be suffering. I mean, it's this circular argument all the time that then just misses the point. So the part that really hit me at the start was like, what if we're wrong? When we're fighting these wars for nothing, and this person that's called a terrorist by one person is called a freedom fighter by another, and it always strikes me as like, who we call an illegal immigrant, some of us in America, is very likely somebody fleeing a horrible situation that may have been caused by us and our
Yeah.
government.
Yeah.
And we just don't ever, we've lost the empathy for other people because God has chosen us as his favorite people. And so I thought, Doug, that Ren did a good job of voicing that angst of sort of this, are you this much of a shithead, God? You know, or am I just seeing you wrong somehow? And so I thought that was a very powerful visualization of kind of that sense and feeling.
Well, it seems like that's a good place to just exit our conversation tonight and just let folks think about that. And
And
yeah.
Doug is asking if we can clip and post that on Ren's social media stuff. So yeah, I'll try to do that, Doug. I think that's a good suggestion. And if he likes it or comments on it, that can boost some algos out there. So yeah.
All right. Well, listen, let's just wrap. And thank you everybody for being with us tonight. And if you're listening to audio and you want to see the video that Paul was just reacting to, it'll be on Paul's social media stuff. And everyone, hope that you are inspired by our conversation tonight with Liz and challenged to go deeper by the last little bit with Ren. And I know I feel that way. I feel both inspired and challenged. So yeah, so grateful,
And
grateful for tonight.
join us next Wednesday for sure. We will be processing where we are in the election. We very likely won't know who the next president is by Wednesday night. We might, but we very
It's
likely
so
won't.
weird. I can't even get my head around the fact that this time next, or I guess a week, by tomorrow, we will have like this great insight. And I want to just
we'll just process it together.
Yeah, we'll process it.
Yeah.
So we probably won't have a guest. Although we
are
reach
planning
out
to have a
to-
guest, but we haven't.
That's right.
We haven't
Yeah,
locked
we have
it
a
in yet.
we
so.
have a dear friend who does a lot of work in peacemaking and conflict resolution, and we just thought maybe that might be nice to have somebody handy that knows a lot about conflict resolution this time next week. So we're hoping that'll work out. If not next week, we'll certainly get her on soon. And just like a good reminder, if you haven't already, go to evangelicalish.com and make sure you at least sign up for the newsletter, because things do come up. We have special guests, or we end up needing to change the time of something. And if you enjoy the live stream, you'll get an email. You'll be able to follow a little more closely what's going on. And as usual, if you feel that this content is in alignment with what is meaningful to you, we would ask you to even support us. $5.99 a month goes a long way for helping cover our costs to just make sure we're doing this every week and spending time with you all. So,
and by the way, if you're on our email list and you haven't been seeing email, I'm finding out today a lot of our email goes to spam files. And so please check your spam and see if we're in there, and tell your email platform, no, this is not junk.
put us on the safe list.
Put us on the safe list, or
Put us on the safe
white list, or whatever it's called.
I did want to say the white list.
That's what it's called, I think, in Microsoft. So
That feels racist.
It does feel racist, but that's the way it is.
All right, everyone, we got to go because we're
All right.
devolving. We'll see you next week.
Good night.